how to use JUnit. Okay, and we're gonna test JUnit for the application named Tower of Hanoi, right? And this application, pretty much, we explain what the Tower of Hanoi is. Like, it's like a game that you move the disk, right? But we want to make sure that the rule is the smaller disk always on the top of the larger disk, and you want to move all the disks from the first tower to the last tower to reach the minimum moves, which is 7. Now I have 4. Let's see, it looks like I'm not going to be able to do that if you move this way, right? 6 already, 7, so I'm pretty much exceeding the move, right? 8, and but you still reach the goal, but it's not efficient, right? The number of move here, right? I've spent 11, you should do just 7. So this program pretty much is going to show you like how to move to the point that you're gonna reach just 7 move, like to the efficient number of move. So, but our point here, we just want to use unit test. So we know that this program has created the move. This is the method that will return the number of min move. So how do we know that this is going to be correct? So we say we're going to run unit test, and this is a program that I create for a class named Tower of Hanoi test, right? Looks like I need to insert a set count. Okay, so I put, so we have the attribute count, get count, set count. This is the min move, and then we increment a count every time when we move the disk. Alright, so now the test unit is, so let me show you how to create a test again, right? What I'm going to do is, if you want to do unit test, you click on the class name and do, this is in IntelliJ, you hold on Alt key and hit enter and click on create test. Okay, this is pretty much going to create a class like I just showed you, right? I just try to go through this again. This is the method that we want to test, name move disk. So since I already have a class name, it's going to like write over this. So I'm going to change this name. So this is a new one that we just created. Okay, so this is a template that is going to create for you for unit test, pretty much just like a main method that we run. So I'm going to run this one, but to run this you have to instantiate an object of Tower of Hanoi to use, right? And we want to call the move disk. So Tower of Hanoi, right? So I call it constructor. Now I should be able to access the method move disk. Now, like say for example, we said 3 disk, right? We have 3 disk, and then we need to specify the towers, right? So the tower are the parameter, the char. So we can just say like tower A, B, C. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to specify the tower. It's a char, so it's going to be the single quote, right? Alright, so from, actually we want to say from tower A to tower C, right? And the auxiliary is the middle one, which is B, right? Alright, so what will it returns? It will return a count as the number of move, meaning that if I print, it should return 7, right, according to what we have seen on the online one, right, that if the logic that we do is correct, it should return 7, right? So that pretty much just unit test that we can just test the number of moves here. And the program itself will print out instruction, and it did return 7. See that? And program itself will print out instruction how to move and make it 7, instead of you try to move on your own and I just got 11, right? So let's see if we restart and we follow the instruction. Pretty much just this application just give you the key, right, to the Tower of Hanoi, right? It said move this one from A, this is A, this is B, and this is C, right? From A to C, right? And then move this two from A to B, and then move this one from C, this is C, back from C to B, right? And then move this 3 from A to C, right? Move this one from B to A, and then move this two from B to C, and then last one move this one from A to C. So it's give you the minimum move, which is 7. So this actually not doing the unit test yet, because we actually just use unit test to run the program. Now the benefit of unit test is come here, right? So like I said, the application here we can actually increase to 4 disks, and we see that it has to be 15, right? So like when you create a method, you thought once you test 1 or 2 it may be enough and you say it works. In reality it may not, right? So that's why unit test gonna come to help. Like they have, if you want to test just one, you can just call assert equals and you have to import the class assert. It's part of the library for unit test that we have in the package JUNIT 4. And assert equals require 3 parameters. The first one is a string, like a message that you want to display to the user. Okay.
Missing an assert on the second word assert there.
So we gonna say like something like you want to, when there's an error, you want the user to see this message. It's gonna go here. Right, so like I expect to see like the minimum move, right, to be, and then I could just call. Now this one is our method, it may be wrong, right? So we should get the 2 values, right? And in math we know that there's a formula that you can form to get this true value. Okay. It's 2 to the power of n minus 1. That should be the minimum moves. For example, if I have 3 disks, 2 to the 3 is 8 minus 1 is 7. You have 4 disks, 2 to the 4 is 16 minus 1 is 15. So it should give you, so we can carry it to the 2 to the n, right? Minus 1. Now, how would we know what is n? Then we're going to define n for now. let's do 3, right? Because we're testing at 3 first. 2, so math, right? Math dot pow to 2D n, right? And the whole thing done, then -1. And this is now math.pow is going to return double, right? So let's see if it's happy by itself first. Okay, so now we have to put in parentheses. Let's see if it will take -1 like that. Okay, so that is good. Now the assert equals again. If you look at the parameters required, I try to show the requirements. Let me.
It's the same issue I was having. I just start with the number.
Javadoc shortcut. Control Shift. No, I'm not looking for that. I want to. When you hover to the method name, it should show the whole complete javadoc for you. Okay, like in Eclipse they have show javadoc. When you hover, it's going to show. You can use F2 shortcut to show javadoc description. Now IntelliJ. Control J, Control Q. Let's try Control Q. Nope. I'm talking about something like it's gonna populate like that. You see that? To tell you what are the parameters that I can explain you. I lack one feature when you put your mouse over. Right, it should show javadoc like that. So it said you could go to setup. I see. So quick documents or the corresponding keyboard shortcut Control Q, Control J. It's also possible to enable automatic javadoc pop-up. Okay, that's what we want. Go to Preferences, Editor, General Code Completion. So, Preferences. Yeah, it's under one of this. It's gonna be Preferences. Default settings. Editors, code completion. General code completion. So where I just actually go to file settings. So go to code and then go to editor, general, and code completion, and say auto pop-up documentation. So we want to enable that. Okay. On mouse move, you can also show quick documentation. So under general, show quick documentation on mouse move. There you go. You have to scroll down a little bit. Alright, so let's apply this. Okay. Alright, so come back. Let's see if it's going to show. There you go. That's what I want. See that? When I hover the mouse, it should pop up the javadoc. We learned javadoc, right?
Yeah.
Now it's going to show you the parameters that I'm using, expected and the actual, right? So that's why I have the expected, right, the first, right, and the second is pretty much just the actual values. But this one actually has a message, so I actually use the one with the 3 parameters. There's another one. If you want to use 2 parameters, that's what I just showed you. 2 parameters meaning that you don't want to include the string. You can just remove this one out, the message. Okay. But you can just leave the expected, which is that part, and this is the actual. When you run, you're gonna get this part. Right, so this is the one that the actual value that we try to test, right, when we call, and this is the actual values, right? So if we compare them and they're correct, it's gonna give you green as you pass the test. So let's say, for example, if I run this, it's not gonna show. Alright, so if it fail, then it's gonna be red. And most likely, I think it's the data type problem. It's also tell you here floating point numbers to compare, so that's why there's an error, because method power return what double, so that's why this one return an integer. You compare double to integer, it's not going to be the same, right? So I cast it to integer, convert the type. So let's rerun again. Now screen. So that is the point of using JUnit, but this is only test just one. Now if I want to test more than one, so I can just use for loop now, right? For int start from 3, and if I want to test, like we just see, like up to 7, right? If I change this to the tower panel, right? If I change it to 7, you see we could do 8. Okay, let's change it to 8,255. So I'm going to say less than equals to 8. I want to test from 3 to 8. I even can test to more than 8 because I'm using the loop now to help keep increasing, and then I don't have to do 3 here. I just say n depending on n, right, that we pass in. So now we are testing our method with unit test, and it's going to test for us to see if it's correct when we change the number of disks from 3 to 8. Alright, so 1 is failed. You can see that. So expected 15 but returns 22. So the reason that is failed because I have to, this is when the disk is 4, right? Second test is failed, right? Because 4 we expect 15, right? Meaning that it's returned 22. That means it's 15 plus 7 becomes 22. I never reset the previous count. That's why. So that's why I need to set the count. That's why we have the setter here to set the count to 0. Right? Every test that's done, we have to reset the count. Otherwise accumulating. Right? Or you can accumulating to test right here, right? So we gotta say tower dot set count to 0 after each test, right? So it's good. So that means this logic is good. This is just the instruction how to move the 255 move when you have 8 disks. So looks like this algorithm is correct based on about 5 tests, 3 to 8. So that's the point of using JUnit, which you have to do the same on your assignment when you test your code or your method, right? And think about the scenario to test. Question?
I have some methods that I want to test that return a number in like a random range. Is there one to check, like instead of assert equals, like assert like in range?
Like I said, right, unit test is not easy, depends on the scenarios, right? So he said his method will return a range of number.
Yeah, like a random number between 1 and 6.
Random number between 1 and 6. So when you call the method, it returns always between 1 and 6. And how would he test that, right? So is that, so you just want to generate number between 1 and 6 is like a dice then?
Yeah, the whole thing is like a craps game.
Okay.
But like the only method I have is roll a dice.
Roll the dice. You want to test your roll dice. And then it's going to generate number between 1 and 6.
Yeah.
Then meaning that you just need to assert that to make sure number should not be less than 1 and greater than 6. So you could do assert greater. I think they have the range 1. Not equals.
Assert true could work.
Assert true. Boolean, right? Yeah, and put a condition, right?
Put a condition,
Yeah. And then you may have your method, right? Let's say after you run the method, right? For example, dice, right? Roll dice. It should give you something like greater than 6 or less than equal to 6, right? And do the same dice. I don't have that yet, right? But I just try to show you, right? Greater than equals to 1. That makes sense? And that would do. Now I just need to create dice. but this is a statement that you want to test. You can test the range. Any other questions? Now you see that, that's why I said it's hard according to how you're going to test the result, right? And it depends on the scenarios. Like Tower of Hanoi is also difficult. One of students asked me, that's why I show you, this is one that you want to do. How would you test Tower of Hanoi? He asked me. And he also, the last student asked me, it's also a very interesting question, how you test the void method. How you test the void method. So void will not return anything. Because normally when you test the returns, right? So that's why, that means you are actually depending on, let's say, example of that is, let's say you guys understand the concept of array list.
Yes.
So how many of you used array list before? Array list? So what's array list? It's just like a list, right? Hmm? Yeah, sizable. Let's say, for example, if I have something that I remove from array list, that means remove is the void method, right? How would you know that it works? You just need to test the size of it. It has to be reduced. That's how you do unit test. You have to rely on another method like get size. Whenever you add something to array list, it has to be increased, so you have to test the size. Because there's a void, right? Or if you make remove to returns, then you actually can compare right away. But to add, take this void method, then you test the size. That is one example. Questions?
I have just a quick thing. If you can go back to the last file, the Tower of Hanoi.
Sure.
Is that it?
No. Let me finish this first. Like, for example, if I want to test, I have like a method. This stack is just like a list, just like array list, but it's called stack, like stack of shirts, stack of books. So you see, I have push, which is void, right? How would I test push? Push is like you insert something on the stack. You push something to the stack, right? This is a void method, right? How would I test that? So let's say I'm going to run unit test push. So I write a code to test push. Keep pushing, right? 11, right? I print whatever I push. But I didn't test it yet. So I have to do assert, right? Dot. This is void again, right? How we test? So you need to test the size then, right? So you could just say assert equals, right? So expected size or stack size equals to, then you could just call stack has the method to get the size, push pop. Pop is just remove off the stack, push just insert into the stack, but every time it's increment the size. So I have the size here, which I should just create the getter to get the size, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a getter here to get the size. Alright, so now we could just do expected, this is interstep dot get size. So whenever you push, I push how many? 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
So that means it's supposed to be 10, right? As a size. Then this is the first parameter. Second parameter pretty much just the actual that we expected 10, right? And then I'm going to call the get size. So it's an expected size 10. If there's an error, right? It's going to say expected size 10, and then but the actual size is, and then I get a size from the actual size, right?
Yes.
Make sense? So now let's test that. Now this is going to push a number between 1 to 10 into the stack and print out the stack. It looks like it's failed. But it's get just 9 as a size. Let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So meaning that it could be, it give me, when you do get size, give me just 9.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's an array. Because I start size minus 1. Because array do 0 to 9.
Yeah.
Right? Because I use array, and it's actually 10 because it's 0 to 9. Since I implement using array, and then it's insert into 9, that's the 10, right? So meaning that if you want to return the actual size, you have to do +1. Because its size is the index of array, not the actual size of, right?
Yeah, but sorry, can I just ask a question?
Yeah, and now when I run this test, now we know that our get size is not implemented correctly. Now it's correct now. We pass the test. The question?
Yes, the getter is only for the test, right? You're not using that in the other part because, right? The size getter.
It's the part of the code too. When, if you remember array list, you can get a size. You used array list before, right? You could get the size of array list. Okay, then you know how many elements in the array list, right? Alright, so you still have question with the previous one?
I just wanted to see it with this. You don't mind. I don't.
Here, this is the one. This one is just the dice version that I tried to answer to his question.
No, I already saw that. Is this just a test though?
This is just a test.
There was another one, right?
This is the code. This, like I said, the whole point here, we just want to teach you how to use unit test. This is just the algorithms to make it may be right or wrong, right? But now we test it's right? For how to get the move of the disk for the type of Hanoi. The algorithm is here. So you may see programming is, the hard part is actually this one, the blue part. It's like puzzles, huh? Let you try to solve since you were kids. Right? And some kids just have fun, some kids just give up. correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Puzzles. Some kids just have fun, some kids just give up. That's why some kids can be programmers, some kids cannot be programmer. The one who give up, this is not for you.
How long does it take to get comfortable?
Like I said, this is the question. Can you write me a program for instruction how to move the disk? That's it. And the answer is right here. You see, it's so short to get the answer. Even the answer itself, some of you may not even understand what they do here. The one who get to this actually is so smart. And this is just from the textbook. Okay. How long would it take for that person to write to this? So it's not about how long, it's about what's your background. And it's about the applications. Like if I want to write an application for financial, how would I be able to write an application if I don't know financial?
Yeah.
So it's not about how long, it's about your background. Do you have a background in financial? Do you know how to create mortgage rates, something like that? You know how to do the compound interest, right? You have to understand that part before you can write the part. So that means you have to have two knowledges. You have to know how to write program, and you have to have the financial knowledge. That makes sense?
Yes.
So that's the hard part about it. It's not, and it could be very long to learn how to build what? Maybe a nuclear that they've been testing. It could take a long time, right? And now I want to write a program to simulate the radius that people will get infected if there's a bomb. Then how could I write it? Even I know how to write a program, I couldn't, right? Because I don't know about the nuclear radius, how spreading is going to. I have to study that first. It could take me like 1 year to understand those whole concepts. Now I can start to write. But now your main focus is just learn how to write the code. With all the simple basic questions that you pick from the textbook. Now how long will it take you to complete each question? That's why you are the one who select the question that you feel comfortable with your background. Correct? So it depends on you. If you select one that's more complicated, it's going to take you longer. Now, how long would you be able to understand programming concept, which I'm teaching you now? You learn how to write a program. How long? It depends on how you understanding what I'm teaching you now. And if you go back home to practice, that's why we have homework. Right? Then you start to feel comfortable with, okay, coding.
What chapters is stuff on? The one that we're doing right now.
Unit test.
What chapter is this in the book?
Oh, this.
Yeah.
This is recursion.
I found it on page 744.
744. Do you know what chapter that is?
That's chapter 18.
Yeah, if you go to course document.
It's like section 18.7. It says like case study tower of Hanoi.
Right, that's one, right? And this textbook also come with the unit test, the unit chapter you can review too.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? So your focus here is just, okay, this is chapter 42, you see, JUNIT, testing using JUNIT. And it looks like this PDF version may have up to, let's see, chapter 33, right? So additional one you can download online.
Do we have access to those web chapters even though this is kind of like a free PDF version of the book? Like, what is it, like required code?
I think you, if you purchase the book, then you have an access to the rest. We can try to, I think I used to have that one too. Like if you purchase the comprehensive version of this textbook. Yeah, this is comprehensive version. Like, yeah, it has a electronic like version after chapter 33. In instruction it's also said that you can download. From website. But you need an access to this, which if you purchase, then you should be able to access to it. So this is the small version. This is the comprehensive version. This is just called companion website. Yeah, you just need to access to that. All right. I just need my password. Okay. Now let's come back to. I'll show you. I'll get the JUnit. I'll show you. I don't want to retrieve the password now because it's on streaming. So let's come back to. I guess I answered all the questions, right? Now, we gotta look at. We have review. We have done function, right? Method I show you, right?
We've done that. It's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's go back to textbook as the guideline. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to chapter. We did loops, right? Last time.
Yes.
5. So I show you for, while, correct? And that's do while too. loops here, right?
Professor? Do you have to know like how to use like Java applet for this course?
No.
No? This is related to graphics, right?
You just need to know Java FX. Oh, I showed you Java FX last time, right?
You said you go through it today.
Did I show you Java FX already?
You started to. We didn't get very far.
Okay. So this is loop for odd numbers, right? Use for, and this is use while, right? And I also show how to create the methods, right? For each. And we were talking about statics, right? And we create an object in the test one here, correct? And then we test, is it correct or wrong? And there's no errors after we test. Now we gotta show you another type of loops, right? So do while, right? So what's the difference between for while and do while?
Do while will execute once before checking the conditions.
That's correct. It's going to execute once. No matter what, it's going to do it once before checking the condition. Like for example, if my I equals to, like if the stop is 100, if I equals to 101, would it get into this loop? If I equals to 101 and stop equals to 100, would it get into this loop? No, right? But instead, if I do instead of do while, if I just change this to this is do while. And that's it. Do while do. That's a different. But the different he just mentioned, right? If stop is 100 and if I equals to 101, is it going to do this one? Yes. That's the difference. Before we will not do when while because condition check first, but do is going to do first before you check the condition. But the results still the same. In this case, the results still the same because I have I equal to 0. Now we run this test. Clearly, I don't need to use another method now. So I can just test this again. Now I'm using do while to see if the result is still correct. It's still correct. Like I said, the results still the same, either while do or do while. It's just when it's going to do it. First time may be different. If I is different, initial value is different. So that's pretty much it for loops. And we will talk about the methods that I show you. There's different type methods, right? Your class size is what? 1, 2, 3, and then what?
5,
5, 6, and then that's it. I didn't have it on. One, 2, 3, and 5, 6. Okay. So let's review back. I think 1 is fine. We talked about that. 2 is the data type. And 3 if else. 5 we talk about loops. 6 the methods, right? So let's look at 3 then. If else and selection statements. So this should be very simple, right? This is all about the Boolean condition. If it's true, we do this, else we do that, right? Very simple. So the operation that we use is less than equals, greater than equals. To equal is we compare, right? Two values, and not equals. Any question on this one? So this is just an example. So we write a program. Do you guys know what's this operation, right? Everybody know that? Remainder. To get the remainder, right? Like 10 mod 10, what do you get as remainder? 0. 11 mod 10. 1. Yeah, get remainder out. This pretty much just very simple. Read input, and print the answer. Now, condition for statement. If it's true, we do this. False, we just do something else, and then we rejoin the statement. So the curly braces is something that you need to know. You know that you can omit the curly braces, right? When you omit it, you could do just one statement, but we not recommend you doing that. When you omit it, it's going to read just the next statement after the condition. Like if I have another statement that I have to print on the 3rd line, if you not consider as true, it's always going to do that statement, because it's considered as just the part of the program after statement, and it's join and do another statement. So that's why we recommend you to use curly braces to surrounding the two, all the statements between that, right? Also else, recommend you to do that. Now this is like if true, you do this, else you do that, right? 2 statements. And we can have nested if, like the first one is true, then you want to consider another condition. Like if password, like if user is true, then you consider if password is also true, right? Then you allow authenticate, else fail authentication, right? Like you do it twice. And this is called nested if, right? And this is like multiple if else, like for grading criteria. You like to use that. If else, more than one condition. Okay. So the flow chart's gonna look like that. Let's say common error is you forget the braces. You should always put braces even if it's one statement. Then you don't create the error. Lots of students sometimes like to put semicolon at the end like that. If you do that, there's no compiler error. It's gonna stop that statement, and this is gonna be just like part of your program. It's not considered as true to do that. Okay, it's just considered as one statement. So it's gonna be wrong if you want it to be true and do that statement. All right. This is just, now how would you generate a random number? One way you can do math.random. What would it return math.random? You might see this on your test. Yeah. What would it return math.random? Numbers double values between 0 and 1, excluding 1. So, if I say, okay, question can be like this. So if I say system.out.print math.random, what is the value that you expected to see?
0 point something.
0 point something. Then if I happen to cast it to int, what would it be?
Just 0.
There you go. So that's something that you may see in the tests, right? Sorry, I don't know why my keyboard is on insert. Okay. So I do int and then math. That should always give you 0, right? Then, how will you do that? You could multiply this. If I want to generate a number like dice between 1 to 6, how will I do that? Let's do that now. Dice, dice, dice. So we were talking about dice here, right? I could just create dice, dice equals to new dice. I have dice. Now I could generate method dice, row dice, return int. Now how would I implement this, right? So result should be number between 1 to 6, right? So this should be an int. Like this one is always going to be 0. How would I generate number between 1 to 6?
7. So I think that the random number is already being created. So you want to check if it's a number between 1 to 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you put 1 less than or equal to 6.
No, because it only makes them from 0 to 1.
Oh, so wait, so you have to give it a 0.
I think you have to
Move it up.
Hmm.
the int take up the int to maybe a float or something. So that's going to give it 0.
Oh, times 100%.
Is it not times 7?
Right? Multiply by 100% is when you move it out of the decimal.
Oh, I'm not sure that's what
And
it
then
is.
you make sure it's only 1 to 6.
Right.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm just reading this off of listing of 3.3. So I might not be understanding this correctly. But it's saying like the int parentheses, and then you're also putting math.random in parentheses, and you're multiplying that by you multiply it by 7 to the 10th. In this case, to get 6, since you would get 0 through 9 integers.
Right.
Oh wait, but you can't have the 0 and die, right? And
You said multiply by 7 and then what?
Okay, I got it.
you got it?
Yeah, I think that's it, right? Because after you multiply it, it turns the or you multiply by 10, I think, because that takes away the decimal. Here, here's the
Okay,
thing.
multiply by 10, you take away decimal.
You multiply by 10, it takes the decimal away, 0.1 to 10.
Because then you still have the 0.06 on it.
That's true.
That's his question.
It has to be multiplied by 100, not 100.
Multiply it by 6.
Suspense is killing me.
Huh?
Suspense is killing me.
You said multiply by 100? Okay. Now, if randomly generate 0.9, you get 90 down.
But that's okay because we're only taking the numbers that 1 or less than 2 or equal to 6.
But we want our dice. Dice doesn't have 90, right? We said it's going to be between 1 and 6, right? Dice. Like, you should have javadoc now, right? Javadoc should say return numbers between 1 to 6, right?
Could you use like an if-else loop or something like that? If-else statement anyway? And then
Could we...
See, I can guess. I can make guesses to how to get 0 through 6, but I don't know how to get rid of the 0 because you won't have 0 to die.
You can get to 0 to 6? How? Tell me.
Huh?
How do you get to 0 to
Well,
6?
I can make a guess.
How?
Maybe you put so double parentheses around the math dot random, and then keep the times 100 like in one of the parentheses, but not the other. And in the parentheses between the two, you just so make the 100 a 10, and then maybe subtract by 3. Don't know if that. Well, you want to put the math dot random and the times 10 in that bracket, and then put another bracket in between like add here. If you maybe again, I'm kind of guessing here.
We're getting hands on.
Minus 3. So this is just a guess. Would that work? Maybe.
Then if I generate 0, then I get negative 3, right, at the point.
Oh.
0 times 10 is 0, I get no minus 3 then. What happened if I do... You want to say it first?
yeah, I was going to say, what happens if you... Can we multiply by 6 and then round up? So that 0 is always... Anything 0.1 is always going to round up to 1. And even though we can't get 6 just by multiplying 0.9 by that, it'll always round up to 6.
Can we multiply an answer just by 10 after we get the answer?
that are already running?
So first, can you get number between 1 to 10?
No, it'll still be for 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
But you do int.
And then you could.
How could int make you 1.1?
Because you're multiplying by 10.
But I just convert to int.
That would just make it if it's already int, then it would be.
If you never have decimal point.
Right.
So this whole thing is between 1 to... It should be between 0 to 9. correct?
Yeah.
This should return between 0 to 9 at this point. If you don't believe it, we're gonna do unit test now, and we could generate like loop, right? So let's just do unit test for this guy. And then we could just do the randomly generate maybe 100 of numbers, right? So we're going to roll the dice, right? So we could make this static because always staying the same, right? So dice dot roll dice is going to keep rolling, correct? And returns the integer. Now what we need is just print it out, then we see it, right? Or we can do assert length 1, 2, right? Like we could assert this. We're going to print and we're going to say this should be between 1 and 9, right? So that's how we're going to do unit test. We can even more than that to make sure. Like we can do even 10,000 times if we want, because we have unit test. That's the benefit of it, right? And okay, let's run it. But this one is not going to have spaces, so let's use spaces every time. Alright, so if it's green, then that means we are correct. So something fell.
It's the greater than or equal to 1 condition, because we have it 0 sometimes.
Oh, we can get 0, right? Yeah.
And then you end up with something between 0 and 5.
Alright, so let's do it one more time. And if we just try to make it like we normally do from left to right, okay? It should not be matter, but just make it easier to read. Good. So this proves that our dice here are going to run between 0 and 9. And we can see those are resolved for 1,000 times, right? And it's also green. Now, if we mod it, what is mod giving you again? The remainder. And we want remainder of what? We want to have 6 number. So this is 0 mod 6 is going to be 0. Then we going to add 1 to get the result 1. And then 10 mod 2. Okay, 1 mod 6 is going to be 1. Then we add 1 is 2, right? 2 mod 6 is going to be 2, right? 3 mod 6 3. 4 mod 6 is 3. 4. 5 mod 6 is 5. 6 mod 6 is going to be 0. So it's return 0 and 5, right? This guy is going to return numbers between 0 and 5. You agree that?
Shouldn't this have to be the other way around? Shouldn't it be 6 mod the numbers? Because 6 into 1, like until you get to 6, they're all going to be 0. So it should just be reversed.
No, it's like 1 mod 6 you get 1, right?
You would get 0, I think, because 6 doesn't go into 1 anytime.
No, remainder should be 1.
The remainder would be
1 mod 6 you should get 1, right? Remainder is 1. Correct? 1 mod 6 you get 1. You can write program there.
that's right.
You can Google it now too.
Yeah, I just ran it in Python.
Okay. So 7 mod 6, we come back to 1. 10 mod 6, we get 4. See that? And then we know that if we do this, it's going to give you between 0 to 5, right? The highlighted part. That's why at 1 is going to be 1 to 6. So this should give you range 1 to 6. And if you don't trust me, that's why we have unit test. Hey, you have to be greater than or equals to 1 and less than 6. And that's the benefit of the unit test. To test your algorithms again. And we prove it, let's do 10,000 times. I roll the dice 10,000 times. It should be between this range, 1 and 6. If it's true, it's green. Okay, something not right.
Shouldn't it be less than 7?
Less than equals, yeah. Or less than, because it happened to hit 6. You're right, right? So now you guys start to like unit test. I run 10,000 times. This is proof that it's QA already. Instead of you do manually by hand and eyes. And you can only do maybe the most 10 times and you say, okay, I'm done. And I'm really, actually, you guys going to do the most just 2 times. Most likely. When you test your code, how many times you really test it? 2 times or 1 is that okay, it works, done. But this make test for 10,000 times for you and prove it's correct. Now, do you understand the unit test, how you use it more now?
What does the keyword throw stand for? Throw. What does is it a keyword? Like I saw it in blue. Like if you throw the dice.
Which one?
Throws, like the void method. Public void roll dice throws.
This is?
Line 11.
Void? Oh, those? Oh, you didn't learn that yet. Yeah, it's exceptions. We gotta cover that. Don't worry about it. Okay. All right, so that's how you use method random. And we also have random class. You can use that too. All right, so I think that's pretty much come to the Boolean operators, right? Not, and, or, exclusive or. Like I just show you, this is and. When you want to have more than one condition, you can and. It has to be greater than 1 and less than or equal to 6 to make this true. Assert true, right? So when you combine more than 1, right? You want to get the opposite, you do not. Or that means either one is true, and that means both have to be true. Exclusive or mean what? XOR. The same is true. The difference is false. Meaning if one is false, the whole thing is false. Like XOR to table. Actually, it's the opposite then. If 1 is false, it's going to be true. Or if 1 is 2, it's going to be true, right? But if both of them are false, or both of them are true, then it's going to be false. So that's the XOR. Okay. Alright, so this is just showing you how to combine them and use them. You can always go back and write that on your own to test. Any question on chapter 3? This is if, and then we call switch another one. So if this switch is just like if else, if else, if else, when you have more than one, right? Then you can use switch. So you can pass in the status switch 0. Like this is the allowance, right? Single filers, 1 married jointly, 2 married filing separately, 3 tax for head of the household. So like when you have more than one condition, just like if else, like if you get 100 you get A, right? You get 80 you get B, right? Case you can do the range to help, something like that. And then you can use the syntax switch, right? Day, like 1 could be Sunday and Monday and so on, right? So that's just an example of using switch case. And this is talk about the zodiacs, right? Like every 12 years it's gonna come back, right? To monkey, rooster, dog, pig. So just take the year, mod by 12, then you get a remainder. And between 0 and 11, then you get the zodiac for each year. Make sense? So you can create an application to pretty much just tell me your tell my zodiacs on the phone app. Make it easy. Pass the year, you get the zodiacs. Simple switch case. So you should install Android Studio if you want to create apps. Android Studio. Okay. So last time I showed you JavaFX, right? You can just drag and drop, right? So the same thing with the Android Studio here. You can just drag and drop. Okay, for the GUI. So I'm launching Android Studio and I recommend you to do that. So we end chapter 3. Do you have any question on chapter 3? Alright, so let me just show you how to use switch case on Android Studio here to show the zodiacs. Okay, like create an app, give me the year, I get a zodiac for you.
We're still using Java, right?
Yes. So now we're waiting for Android to load, right? When we're waiting for that, I'm going to use JavaFX first, review the switch case. So when you create a new project, you choose JavaFX project. Okay. So I'm going to call it zodiacs. So we're going to create an application to give me the year. I tell you what's your zodiacs, right? So again, we were talking about, we separated the view controller last time, right? So the view is going to be under sample.xml scene builder. Okay. Alright, so you may need a text box for the user to enter the year. So I'm going to find text field. Should be under controls. We need a button. They have that picker. Maybe use a that picker to pick the birthday. Okay. So I use the picker and I use the button, and the button I'm going to just say get my, just relabel it zodiacs. Right. Alright, so you can make the color change, things like that. You can create a style, you can make the font style different. You could, this is the properties where you can control your buttons. Right. All right. Now, when you click the button, the code is going to link to the controller because this is just a view, right? On action, we're going to call get zodiacs as the method. I just name it get zodiacs. Okay. Now in the controller, I have to create a method name. We learned the method, right? Public. Okay, void gets, so yes, exactly the same name as I put it in the controller. I mean, on the view button code. Right, again, right here on action under code, right? Now let's just do system.out to test that it actually works, right? And actually you could put the whole switch case here, the algorithms to get your zodiacs, because controller is where you actually handle the algorithms right there, right? The logic of how to get the zodiacs. So this is pretty much around here. There you go. Alright, so technically I just need this one. I mean, I could type, but I just try to shorten the time to show you, right? That how do you switch case and integrate to your graphic user interface, right? So it's looking for year, right? Now year actually, now for now I'm going to just put 2017. I will replace with, actually I can just create variables for now. Int year equals to 2017 for now, okay? Just to test that when I hit the button it works. It's gonna print, it's supposed to do the work already from there, print, right? So that. Okay, so we're done, right? So we run the application. So since I'm waiting for that, I want to switch to my Android Studio and check. All right. Okay, so it looks like there's an error. So the error said they don't know what is application. So let me see what type of JDK I'm using here. So I'm going to look at the file project structure. I just want to check. So it's using 9. 1.9 just released. So I'm going to switch back to 1.8 and try again. Because 1.9 they restructure, right, a lot of things, and it's not stable version yet. Okay, so it works with 1.8. Right? So let me just hit the get my zodiac just to test, because I just hard coded the number, if you remember, right? 2017. I just want to test if it's going to print out and the algorithm is correct or not. Right, smart 12 is supposed to get into one of these cases. So it seems like it doesn't link, right? Okay. Now let's see what happens. So first, check the spelling, get zodiac controller. On action. So this is a button. Well, I want to check if it's linked correctly on the XML file here. Look at the button. Text. There's no controller here. If there's no controller, it's not gonna work. So there's no on action. Let me double check the code again. On action, get zodiac. So I have to pick that. Let's see if it's going to. There you go. Before it's not inserting it. Like I have to, after I type, I have to actually selecting it too. Otherwise not seeing it, okay? So that's it. So I fixed by just selecting it. Now try again. All right, rooster. Is it the year of rooster? Yeah. Right. So that's it. Now we be able to interact, right, with the user through the button. But we want to interact through the date picker now. Pick date of birth to the zodiac, right? So now how do we connect this? Same thing, click on date of birth here, right? I mean the date picker, which I choose from the controls, right? Alright, so you gotta get to the property again. You need to give the fx ID, like DOB, something like that. This is just like variables that you name it. Like the on action is just like method. Okay? The ID is just like the identity or the variables. Okay? So now it's going to link to make sure it's linked, right? So like to make sure it links is you pretty much just switch to, like I did, switch to XML and insert the code for you. See that? Technically, if you don't use that scene builder interface, you can just type this. It's the same thing. But scene builder make it easier, right? Now, same thing in controller. You have to declare, use annotation fx ID. Think fx. Let me see. Annotation. Like I need to create fx id the same name, which is the data type for dob. I need to know what is the object date picker. We can do prompt text. We can do wham-wally is what would it return, right? So the picker, let's see if it's string first. I just try to identify the data type. Let me look at the sample code to identify the data type. So this is date picker. So the object is date picker. So then I need to name date picker as the type then. Now annotation, let me check fx id. fxml. So fxml. So this just refer to this XML, and type is date picker. Now I have to make sure I get the right package. It should be javadoc1, right? And what did I name it? DOB, right? Give the same name. So it should link to that now. And now I just need to know how to use the date picker. Get, I wonder if I can just get year. So technically you need javadoc for date picker. This is my first time using date picker too. So javadoc scene. So you see all the methods. Let's look at the methods. Get editors. Maybe let me see. Java fx date picker get date. Okay. So if we get the date object, then we're done. So it looks like this. You have to do get value first. It's going to return the local date, and then you have to convert the instance, and then you get the date type. That's what you have to do when you use date picker. Okay. So let's test first. Now we gotta test just the date picker. We have to import this. Now the picker I name DOB, right? So local date. Does not store a time zone. You must specify the time zone and time of day. Let me see how to use date picker here. Set on action. Yeah, you get the local date. Okay. And then you can parse. Alright, now let's see. It looks like it doesn't like the way that we use the local date. Not sure if we get the right package. Java time.localDate. It looks like it doesn't exist. Use set up API. Since 1.7. So there's a problem with the local date with the package. Okay, let me check. The picker, this one use local date. When I import, it looks like there's a problem with the date. Local date. We use 1.8. So let me check javadoc local date. I want to see what happens. So this is row since 1. This is in 1.8, I mean. Local date is part of java.time.localDate since 1.8. Maybe my 1.8 is not up to date. So let me change I think the latest one I have is 1.65 updates 1.8 update 65. Can you guys try on your machine too? The local date. I want to see if it's valid. Because your machine has update the more recent. So I have update 65. I have 9, but we were having issue to run 9 when we do the JavaFX. It can link to that. So let me change back to 1.8 again. So I just disabled the inspection. It seemed like the IntelliJ has inspected that and tried to warn me. So after I disable inspection, it's gone. So let me try to run. So when I run, it's just going to show print line the date first because we're not linking them together yet. Okay, once I just test the button for the picker and it should print the date I pick. That's pretty much it. How would it print? Because I didn't get the event to it, so it will not print unless I put an event. Now when you put the event, so this is set on action, right? Event. You can write this way, or you can make controller to do the same. So meaning that when I select the date, just like I hit the button, you can make it listen to the event. Like for example, when I click a button, it's going to call controller. See that? So that's why controller print the date from the event. So pretty much when I call that, when I pick the date itself, it will not do anything until I hit get my zodiac, right? Because get my zodiac call get zodiacs, right? Because link. Then it's going to do this whole thing. Read the date, right? This one just get the values from FXID, right? That picker, which I picked the September 8th. That's why, right? It's make it last a local date object, and then it has to get a time zone, right? And convert to the time zone, and that convert to a date format, date type, right? So after you get date type, then I start to print out. Like I just try to show you local date without a time zone. I print the first one, new line. This is with a time zone, right? And this is changed into date format. So that's why I say Friday, September 8th, 2017. This is just date picker, so it didn't pick the time, right? We could just get a time too. But now the key thing is I want to get just a year. Then we get the zodiacs, right? So date itself, you should be able to get a year from date. Get year, right? Looks like it's instead of hard-coded 2017, now let's test if it's gonna work. Because it seems like this is deprecated when you have to cross over like that. They just not recommend to use that anymore. You might want to use another way to get a year. Okay. But now we're gonna test to see. That's going to have a suggestion the better way to get a year. Let's say if I pick 2018, okay, horse, right? So next year it's gonna be horse. Is that right? Now you tell me your birthday, I can tell you the zodiacs. What's the birthday? October the 1st and
1995.
Now we get the zodiacs. Are you horse?
No, a pig.
1 second. Oh, it keeps saying 2018 because I cannot type. I didn't make event to type. I have to pick. Yeah. 1995. Okay, October the 5th. Okay.
First.
Okay, October 1st. Sheep.
No, hey.
Let's see.
So Google says 2018 will be the dog. Or Wikipedia, rather.
There's no sheep.
So let's test our logic then. 1995 mod 12, what do we get? Hmm?
3.
3? Okay. 3 is a pig. Alright. You're right, you're a pig. That means this one happened to show sheep. So that's why maybe, let's see what happened when you get year, right? Maybe the problem is, that's why they suggest not to use dot get year. So let's print out what does it show us. Like we want to print what? Just the year. I want to see does it really show 1995? That makes sense? Or what is this year? Zodiacs. Rooster? So next year Zodiacs. It give me 118, that's why we get a horse. The year is wrong. Which is not wrong. Because that's why they not suggest to do dot get year. If you read the date, they got it from Gagarin. They call Gagarin, right? Date type. So let's look at, you have to understand what is date in Java first. So how to understand that? Date javadoc. So a millisecond value represents the number of milliseconds that have passed since January 1st, 1970. So it actually get the milliseconds since January 1st, 1970. Okay. Now let's see if I try to get year, what do I get? Get hours, get minutes, get second. Let's search for get year. Return a value that is the result of subtracting 1900. That's why. From the year that contains or begin with. That's why we don't get the whole 2018 thing, right? So that's why the result is not correct. So I mean, if you want, you can just add 1900 in. That's one way to get a year. Alright, so let's run it again. So we picked a year. Let's do next year again. We got a dog. Okay, now we get the right year, right? Now we can test year 1995 again. But like I said, this one takes time to test. But if you do the unit test, it's going to save you a lot of time. If you make the logic to compare, right? You can see, like this one, we have to do manually, right? It's a pig now. Easy? Extra credits. Right? With JavaFX. What time is supposed to be done?
5:40.
8 o'clock.
You guys need a break?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, let's take a break then.